Yeah, on that note, look, it was tradition and soul food that got an entire race of people through some very difficult times. Now, all this talk about so it causes diabetes and cancer and high blood pressure, high cholesterol, shortening the life, oh, that's extreme, my brother, very extreme.
Thank you for your comment, but let's deal with that. Extreme? Well, tell us what is extreme. What is extreme? I mean, if we're saying that, you know, tradition is something that we should uphold even at the expense of health.
That's right.
That is extreme, isn't it?
Mr.
Yes,
Blue might have some things that's true. However, like you said, the extreme is not extreme when you have triple bypass.
Triple.
It's not extreme when there's, clogged arteries and we talk about embolism. It's not extreme when you find those who are being controlled by tradition leading the world, within America, of breast cancer, of prostate cancer, of high blood pressure. And I can go back to my personal experience because, soul food, as I mentioned, definitely the word soul is the adjective that describes this tradition that was wrought in slavery and then transitioned here into America in the rural South. But I remember when I was clinically diagnosed at the age of 17 with rheumatoid arthritis. And that started from 17 to 27, which stopped my pursuit as a professional basketball player. And I grew up on traditional soul food. And so my people had arthritis, blood pressure, and I remember my doctor saying, you inherit this condition. And I thought for a moment, it's been over close to 50-some years ago. And he said, there's no known cause for it, there's no remedy for it, you have to live with it for the rest of your life. But when I began to recognize some principles from the Word of God, and especially when you read in the book of Matthew and how the Pharisees held on to their traditions, and I began to do some research about this tradition, because God also said in Exodus 20 that, you will suffer as results of your forefathers. Talk about generation curse. So I began to trace my problem. And I remember in that introduction that Proverbs 23, and it talks about, if you're given to appetite, put a knife to your throat. So my people ate this traditional food, the ham hock. I mean, we could not eat color or collard greens without ham hocks, without fat back.
That's right.
We will eat not the bacon. I mean, we will actually eat the fat. I mean, the fat of the pig and cook it in the grease, in the lard that was reused over and over again.
Because it would give it flavor. It would give flavor to it.
The taste. Fat brings flavor.
Fat brings flavor.
It gives you flavor to it. Without fat, you don't want that.
Without fat, you don't want that. Now, hold up. Now, let's put this into perspective. So we're talking about foods that are inexpensive, right? But they're high in fat. They're high in sodium. They're high in cholesterol. Sometimes, a lot of times, sugar. We talked about the sweet potato. Nothing wrong with the sweet potato.
No, it's not.
But when you make the sweet potato pie, which I love, by the way.
There you go.
Me too.
Love it. However, when you've got white refined sugar, then it makes for a pro-inflammatory situation. And that's really what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
How does the food affect us physiologically?
That's right.
What is it doing to our arteries? What is it doing to our bones? He had diagnosed at 17 rheumatoid arthritis.
That's right. Autoimmune.
Now that's a debilitating disease. That's a deforming disease.
At 17.
At 17. So we see that generationally, talking about tradition, it was passed on. So it wasn't so much what was genetically.
That's right.
It was more about what
was on the plate.
lifestyle was being passed on.
That's right.
From one thing. You were about to say something.
We have to begin to make this connection between what we eat and how we are faring physiologically. And a lot of times, these foods, as you mentioned, set up internal conditions that are pro-inflammatory. So then you have the arthritis and the stiffness in the joints. Then you have the clogged arteries. And you don't really realize it's because that fatback that comes out of slavery. Corn and fatback were the staples of slavery. And it was in everything. That's where we get the grits from, you know, grinding the
We
grits.
had that this
Fish and
morning.
grits.
Fish and grits, right? Or, you know, I mean, you can take the chicken and grits, you know, and smother it with the gravy and all that. But all of that leads to internal conditions that are disease promoting. And